Welcome to Theory of Conspiracy. Don't adjust your headset, you are listening to three northern lads from the UK talking about their own beliefs whilst challenging each other's.
Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm the truther.
Hi, I'm Andy the Skeptic.
Hello, I'm Carlos. I believe.
Hi TheoCons, we've got some sad news to tell you today. We've decided that we're going to have a bit of a break from the podcast for a while, but before you reach for the off button or unsubscribe, hold your horses, don't count your chickens just yet. We've still got a few more episodes to get through before we have a little rest and a lie down. We won't be gone for too long, we'll be back bigger, better and stronger for Season 2. Also, I've got a couple of short special episodes we'll release during the break, and if we can iron out those audio glitches we're getting with the Twitch sessions, then we might continue to release the audio for these episodes too.
If you would like to support the podcast, please talk about this with your friends or give us a review on iTunes. You can comment or contribute at TheoConPod, that's at TheoConPod, or check the link in the podcast description.
Listen up, this is the main bit.
Okay, this is the main bit. This is episode 17. We're going to talk about moon conspiracies. Why have we not been back? Have we even been there? Is it made of cheese? Is it metal? Is it hollow? Are there aliens on there? All that sort of stuff. I'll probably hand straight over to Carlos and see what his favourite moon conspiracy is.
Evening all, evening TheoCons. How are you doing? Hope you're all well. Yeah, Andy has just asked us regarding my favourite conspiracy on the moon. There's many I've read about. There's lots of documentaries I've watched, books I've read, sort of conspiracy theory people who've spoken about this, who've written lots of literature. But it's like most schoolboys, I was fascinated for the sort of like the moon landing from a young boy. But the one what sort of catches my eye and the one what sort of like caught my attention, there's many, but the one I will start off with is the missing 2 minutes. And the reason why I say that, it's the one where Neil Armstrong is talking to Houston, and there's a live stream which the world can listen to. But what happens then is they absolutely switch to a different channel for 2 minutes, and a lot of people are saying, why is he switched for 2 minutes? Is it some protocol, or is he seen something, or is he witnessing? And apparently there's been some released documentation that Neil Armstrong was saying, I can see him, I can see the ships, the crafts on the other side. They are huge, they are massive. Do we proceed as normal? And apparently NASA said, yeah, keep proceeding, and then switch back to the channels. They call it the missing 2 minutes.
I don't really know about this missing 2 minutes. Very interesting what you said. I do recall someone commenting on this audio saying that, listen to this audio, they're talking about a UFO, and actually NASA released a statement saying, and it might be the same thing, but it might have been something from the shuttles, but they're saying, oh no, actually he's looking at an instrument panel and he's going, oh, what's that there? Look at that there. And he's pointing at a button that's flashing, but he's not being very descriptive of it. And the conspiracy people are just saying, he's talking about a UFO, he's talking about aliens, blah blah blah. And really, they're just saying, no, he was looking at an instrument panel. And he's going, what's that there? That's just flashed up, and it's gone again now. Oh, it's back again. So that's one thing.
It's very easy to say that, but the people because nobody ever knows no one knows exactly what was said, because it was flicked to a channel which wasn't documented.
Okay,
but the people who did work there, the few people who did work there, did release information saying that Neil Armstrong did see crafts out there, and he said they were massive. They said they were massive. You can see crafts, they're massive. Do we proceed as normal? It's like they're watching us.
Okay, so if it's that was the point I was just about to make. If it's a missing 2 minutes, how do we know what was really said? And then we've so-called got these people. It's like someone saying, oh, I went to Area 51 and I saw this, and this person's got no credentials, no record of being in the army, navy, military, and that's because they wiped all my records because I went to Area 51 and I saw a spaceship and I shouldn't have done, and I've talked about it, and they've, there's I'd be interested to see the credentials of these people that have said it. And
Well, these are the people who actually worked. These are the people who actually worked there.
Apparently, so you say, but they could have been janitors or anything. How do you know they were in the control room?
Well, these were people who were actually in the control room, because the only people who could hear it were in the control room, and that's one of the interesting, because if you, without digressing, but if you start listening to the way after the moon landing, the way the behaviour of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, but especially Neil Armstrong, the most important, probably the most famous person to walk the face of the planet at the time, he became a recluse. And he started using sort of cryptic messages in his interviews and stuff like removing the true layers of protective truth. And it's sort of like, and he mentions words, we're flying out there, but we're like parrots. And if you look into the word flying like parrots, what do parrots do? Parrots repeat what they're told to say. That's what they do. They keep repeating what they're told to say.
While they're flying.
While they're flying. So it's all hidden cryptic messages.
Just another interesting thing about the 2 minutes. Again, this is just my general knowledge of the space mission, not looked up at this or anything. Might be totally wrong, but do you know how NASA kept in touch with the guys up out there and on the moon when Earth was spinning and rotating? So at points, NASA was on the wrong side of the planet to get, because the radio waves don't go around the planet. So do you know how they kept in touch? It was through like ham radios and stuff like that. So I'm suggesting, just a theory, that the missing 2 minutes and the reason this channel change could have been, say he was on the Africa station, and they were then feeding that via telecommunications that were Earth-based, inside the atmosphere, but the signals were getting picked up by Africa. They lost that signal, and they literally had to wait 2 minutes. Or he might have just, picked up by the next station in Russia or whatever the next one round was. He gets picked up, and whoever's broadcasting the feed for all the people at home to listen to took 2 minutes to switch the feed from one feed to the other. It could have been something as plain and simple as that.
It could have been, but then again, you'd be talking about the missing 50 minutes, the missing 1 hour, not the missing 2 minutes. So it's amazing how they've only got 2 minutes missed and nothing else is missed. So, because if you were saying,
it doesn't matter how long it's missed. I mean, it probably would have been better if there was loads of minutes missed, and then.
But it's just this specific 2 minutes, as if he switched over to say, listen, I can see, and this is the bit what the alleged people who were there, worked there after, because obviously I've not spoken to them, I don't know who they are, but it says, that's when he switched, says, I can see him. There's large crafts on the other side. Do we proceed? The watch was basically.
But again, the radio signals were all broadcast by like ham radio, so even if he'd switched frequencies, there still would have been ham radio listeners on those other frequencies.
It might be the handheld listeners who have picked up on this. There won't be that many people in the 1960s who would have had this technology. I'm sure this technology would have cost thousands and thousands of pounds to have.
Not ham radios. There was loads of them knocking around. There's loads of them.
Well, that's more like CB, though. They're more like C.
Yeah, but there wasn't much difference. There was loads of ham radio enthusiasts talking to people in Australia and all this sort of stuff, bouncing stuff off the atmosphere to talk to the other side of the planet. It was a big fad back then, man. If anything, we've lost it. It didn't cost much.
Well, the thing is, it's the way the missing 2 minutes, which is even NASA they said to just switch channels for 2 minutes. Even NASA have explained about the 2 minutes being missed. I mean, they switch the channels.
I'd love to have a look at it, actually, some of this stuff and
so that's just one of the things what literally grabbed my attention straight away. So there's many more. The other ones is this is more, I won't say the David Icke, but David Icke has sort of like it was written by two Russian astronauts, but David Icke sort of made it more more publicized, was more famous. Yeah, is the ping theory, where the moon makes. I don't it's things I've read where there's things that have objects which have hit the moon, and it's making a ping thing rather than some kind of thud. Like obviously, the moon is meant to be one big solid rock, but if it's making a ping, that means it's hollow. And they talk. I don't know if you've read about things like the moon being a craft or ping theory. I don't know if you've read anything about that.
I know about the two Russians.
The
that say
Russian
it's
who wrote,
a
I think,
hollow
1970s.
and it's a craft, And Ike goes to far as to say it's some sort of satellite dish beaming our reality at us that's controlled by the lizards. But,
he does say that it's a kind of craft which is watching us, basically.
Yeah,
that's obviously. I don't believe that, but it's had a lot of weight. It's not gone away since the 70s. It's been around since the 70s. That
has it?
Well,
you've got Ike touting it every time he has a conference. If things are making pinging noise, again, there's no sound on the moon because there's no atmosphere for sound waves to travel. So maybe the computer technology that's detecting the vibrations, so-called vibrations of things hitting the moon, like small asteroids and rocks and stuff, just translates it into a ping noise, a bit like any weird static does. We record these podcasts every now and again. We're getting weird noises and feedback.
But don't you think experts would throw that in the scrap bin? Or that's the reason. But
I think experts don't pay attention to the absolute trash that's on the internet, and they don't give it any time, unfortunately. And if they did, no one's touting their side. They'd rather listen to these.
Well, I find it interesting when the people say it's nonsense, they sort of ignore it. But when there's complete nonsense, which could affect the way people think, they mute you. Like if me and you put a website up and talked about flat Earth or hollow Earth, people would just either ignore it or click. But if me and you spoke about vaccines or coronavirus, my God, just shut us down. So, but we could be talking nonsense on all three subjects. But on certain subjects, you can't sort of talk about it. Whereas I find it interesting when when it comes to the moon, like these, to summarize, I believe we've been to the moon. The question I'd always ask is why haven't we been back again? And there's many reasons why I think we've not been back. I know that's deviating from the ping theory, but it just elaborates on the ping theory where why haven't we been back? I'll give you.
It was 1972, the last mission, wasn't it, Carlos? That was
exactly
pre us being born. So yeah.
So why do you have a? I know the government would stand on and say finance bollocks. They've done. It's not about finance. So what do you think why we've not been back? Do you have a reason why we're not being back?
Am I allowed to say finance?
You can say finance if you want.
Yeah. Well, I do think that. I do think the money thing is an issue. I don't think Kennedy was more passionate about beating the Russians than he was about actually getting to the moon. So he was he authorized all sorts of money for this thing to happen. It was a sort of like a war situation. It was a Cold War situation. It was like instead of fighting them, let's prove our might with technology and let's see who can get there first. I'll come back to some facts later. Actually, that might be quite interesting. I've just got a couple that I found. But yeah. Why haven't we? Surely we've got the technology. It's just a matter of reproducing it. They bothered spending thousands into space shuttles, and then they ended up canning them after 20 years, and now they're relying on Elon to get off the planet and.
Well, China and India have proved that you could do it cheaper. India and China have done it cheaper.
Yeah.
India sent didn't China. Correct me if I'm wrong, peeps who are listening. I'm sure someone sent a sort of robot to the moon as China wants it. It was something like 50
the Russians
million.
Did. Was it? Oh, I
don't. The Chinese.
China have done something recently, haven't they?
Yeah, and it's something that costs like 50 million, or it might be India. It cost them 50 million.
That's all recent,
petty cash. That's petty cash, though.
It is. That's all recent, isn't it? And I think with this Mars focus, I think the first test will be. I think we will go back to the moon, and it will be soon because they'll go. Look, if we can land on the moon and set a base up, and someone can live on it for 6 months, why can't we do the same on Mars?
Exactly, because obviously I think
it's just that it's an 8-month journey instead of 3 days.
Exactly, and that's the thing where if you can replicate it on the moon, or if you could do it on the moon, you'll be able to replicate it on Mars because Mars is a livable planet.
And I think that'll happen now that it is getting cheaper. But I just think they put all the money into the space shuttle programs, which weren't designed. They were designed for close Earth orbit, free fall orbit. They weren't designed for missions to the moon, going around the moon and coming back. As impressive as they looked, they looked amazing, didn't they? The shuttles.
Yeah.
Who didn't have a shuttle as a kid when
a kid? Yeah. I couldn't afford it. I had a picture of one on my wall.
Did you?
I couldn't afford it.
But
one of the reasons why I think we've not been back, and this is the bit where, because I've read, obviously, you hear about the stories about the dark side of the moon and why we're not being. But do you know one of the only times we've written we come in peace from all mankind? Do you know that's only been written once? And that's when we went to Apollo 11, went to the moon landing. We come in peace from all mankind. That's the only time we as a species or we as a race on this planet have written them words in unison.
Where was it written?
On a gold olive branch, right, and placed in the moon. So that's true. That's not made up. That's true. It's even documented.
I've never.
No, seriously, that you can do your fact checkings. We've put it on a gold olive branch. We come in peace from all mankind. An olive branch, that's friendship. That's friendship. So I can probably hear you typing then.
It's friendship for
all mankind.
No, we're coming friendship for like Greeks, isn't it?
So basically the reason why we've not been back is we were told by the extraterrestrials that you needed to do this to prove to yourselves, to prove to the people that you do have the willpower, you do have the technology. Now, basically, fuck off, go away, or you will feel our wrath, basically. So these ETs which use our moon as a petrol station. The people forget that the moon is it's an energy. It's a ball of energy. It's filled with helium-3. Helium-3 is you get from the rays from the sun. We don't get it because we have some kind of defense field. Our core protects us, helps us. Obviously, it helps us from not getting radiation poison, and that's why we have life on this planet. But the moon is full of helium-3. That is pure energy. So if you had if you were an extraterrestrial, which is far superior, more advanced than us, you wouldn't be running it on fuel or petroleum. You'd be running it on sort of like some kind of free energy. And the helium-3 is abundant on the moon. It's like one big free petrol station. They told us to not go back.
The film Moon is based on that, where there's a base on the moon, and you've got these big machines that go around, basically gathering up the. So it's not a ball of helium-3. It's I don't even know if it's scientific. I don't even know if it's been scientifically proven.
Oh no, it's just the moon's full of helium-3. That's what I meant to say.
It's not full of it. It's the rocks and the dust on the surface of the moon constantly bombarded by the sun's rays, which is obviously energy. That's, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. That's how plants grow. Animals eat plants. We eat plants and animals, or just plants if you mean. And that's how we live. That's a circle of life. So, but the theory is that the rocks on the surface absorb it, so it's only on the surface layer. I don't think you could mine it, because it would just be like once you scrape away the earth, you start hitting rock. It's
Well,
just
as far
rock.
as I know,
There's no
it's
mineral
abundant.
content in rock, is there? Yeah,
As
it's
far as I know,
abundant.
it's abundant.
It is abundant. It's that, like I say, that film was based on it.
It's had 4.6 billion years of
sunlight.
of sunlight on it. So yeah, it's abundant.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting. But the why would we bring an olive branch? We come in peace from all mankind.
Okay. Just going back to your olive branch, I'm looking at a picture of a replica of it. It's not engraved or anything. It's just it's only about, I think it's less than 6 inches in length. It's less than half a foot, it says. So that's 12 inches.
Yeah, it's small. I didn't say it was big. But remember, it's weight. It's probably weight as well. You can have so much weight, when they're taken with them and stuff like that.
Yeah. But it's not engraved. It doesn't mention he left it with a plaque or anything, but it just says it's a gesture and it represents a fresh wish for peace for all mankind. Nothing about we come in peace.
No, there was like a plaque or a letter with it, because obviously with the disc, because we sent disc into the obviously with Voyager.
Yeah, you might be misremembering it. It just says it was a gesture as a wish for peace for all mankind. Nothing about come in peace. A silicon disc about half the size. Hold on. There's something about a silicon disc here. One sec. Could it be that? Could Carlos be right? They left a commemorative plaque on the moon in memory of 14 NASA astronauts and USR cosmonauts. So yeah, it says they carried a small gold olive branch, which was a global symbol of peace, and a silicon disc about the size of a United States $50. Inscribed on the disc are microscopic text from the presidents of the United States and leaders of the other 73 nations. No text to do with we came in peace in that text, or not that it's all read or it's transcribed on this webpage I'm looking at. However, there is a shot of something, and it's got like both sides of the planet Earth. I'm trying to work out exactly what it is. There's both sides of the planet Earth. It says, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." Not we come in peace. We came in peace.
Okay, we came. Come on,
right.
we came. Come on.
But
I was a kid when I read this. I was a kid.
Okay, yeah, you've got it. But that one change does change the meaning. We come in peace sounds like you're talking to someone. We came in peace. It's for the person that's reading this.
Yeah, I understand. But remember, I was the most important thing. I was right. That's the most important thing. I was right.
Yeah. Let's say you were half right, and I was.
What do you mean? So, I was a 14, 15-year-old kid reading this.
All right,
you know what I mean?
All right.
So
this is well remembered, man. Well remembered. That's all. So apparently, it's the Apollo 11 lunar module shows the stainless steel dedication plaque. And the signatures of the 3 Apollo crew members and President Richard Nixon are on it. So it looks like that's like the chassis or something that was like left there. When it blasted back up, that was there. Obviously, it was on something designed to stay there. It's a shame that wasn't wrapped around the bottom of the flagpole or something. That's where you'd look for a message, maybe.
It's like the Land Rover. That cost them like £39 million to make that, didn't it, or something stupid? Or total to make it, to get it up there.
Yeah. I mean, it was at the time it was a one-off piece of technology, wasn't it? And all the stuff they put into making it obviously made the next ones cheaper. But yeah, they had to design it for low gravity and things. Talking of low gravity, I know probably segue, still moon related, but do you know how the likes of like Neil Armstrong and the other astronauts trained to walk on low gravity? Wasn't in like a swimming pool like you see in the films these days.
I was going to say it was going to be in water. I thought it was going to be on the water or something.
Oh yeah.
Was it not like a room that would be in the air being taken out?
No, I think when they do water, it's weighted, so it's more like zero gravity, so free fall. But on the moon, it's what's called a microgravity. So you've still got gravity, but it's only is it a third of the Earth, or is it a sixth of the Earth?
Well, the thing is, it's if you launched a tennis ball, that's flying out into the cosmos. Well,
I'm not sure you'd break. I'm not sure if you It depends what you launch it with, but I don't think you could throw it hard enough so that it didn't come back to the moon. It's not
No,
that microgravity.
didn't they do that with a tennis ball, but a golf ball?
Reckon.
They do this,
Yeah,
because I
they
know
hit a golf ball, but I don't reckon it would have left the planet, left the moon, because it has got a gravity. I mean, if it's got enough gravitational pull to cause our tides to move around the planet, then it's got enough gravitational pull for, you know, how far can you hit a tennis ball? How far can you hit
a golf ball?
Golf ball on Earth, say 400 yards.
Yeah, so a professional would be
yards?
probably 300 or 400 yards. I'm sure a professional could do.
Let's say you had Arnold Schwarzenegger of a professional golfer. Tiger Woods, Arnold Schwarzenegger had a baby, and he could hit a golf ball for 1,000 yards on Earth. You go up to the moon, and the gravity is a third of that's on the planet Earth. Then, therefore, you could hit it theoretically 3,000 yards. Yeah, so 3,000 yards is not high enough for it to leave the pull of the moon. It will come back down. You'll just never bloody see it because you've hit it so far away. So it's hard to see a golf ball anyway.
They did that famous test. They call it the Galileo test, when they had a feather and a hammer, I think it was, and they dropped it down.
There's no atmosphere. Yeah.
There's no atmosphere, and they both hit the ground at the same time. And in Galileo, they call it the guy because it was Galileo Galilei who came up with that theory in the 1600s.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how
in a vacuum, everything falls at the same speed.
Exactly.
Because there's no air resistance. So, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Here's one for you, just to add to the We Come in Peace and stuff like that. And to the viewers listening, I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy called Gary McKinnon. Gary McKinnon is probably the world's most famous and probably the world's #1 hacker. He's the one who hacked into the NSA, NASA, Ministry of Defense, as all their computers for 4.5 years. He's the one who the Americans want to extradite over to the United States. I think it was actually Theresa May, who was the Secretary of State at the time, obviously declined that. Obviously, I've spoken to Gary McKinnon a few times via Twitter and stuff like that. And one of the things I did get a chance to ask him was, because he's very cagey the way he talks. He talks in like riddles, like watch around and all that kind of stuff. But watch the walls from on the inside and the caves and this. He's very cryptic how he talks to you sometimes. But the one thing I did find interesting what he said is, he said, we haven't been to the moon. We didn't have the technology to get to the moon. But then he throws a curveball at me, but we have colonized Mars. And I went, huh? What do you mean by that? And he goes, yeah, it's what I've seen on the computers. We haven't been to the moon, but we have colonized Mars. So I don't know if he's doing it for clickbait. But he's not making any money out of it. So it's not as if he's like selling books. He's closed all his social media platforms down. So he's not doing it for followers. But what's he doing it for? Is he doing it for because he's a very recluse kind of a person? So it's very interesting to see why he says that. Because if he said it and he sold loads of books on it, or he's doing loads of world tours, maybe there's monetary value into it. But he says it and disappears, which I find quite interesting. About 6 months after he told me that, he said it on a documentary as well.
It's a nice little moon anecdote because we've been there anyway, and we've been talking about stuff left on the moon and those objects having their own conspiracies as well. So it's like yeah. I mean, there's so much stuff out there about the moon. I remember in the 90s reading about the fact that the moon has got a wobble, which means that. And I think this was somebody taking the dark side of the moon literally. So you've got the side of the moon that faces us, and you've got the dark side of the moon. I think whoever came up with this thinks that the dark side of the moon is in permanent shadow. It's not. It's called the dark side of the moon because we can't see it. The moon wobbles, just like the Earth wobbles a bit. And this causes seasons. So around the edges, because you've got seasons, it allows plants to grow because there is a very small atmosphere on the moon and all this. Obviously, that Galileo test that you referred to,
yeah,
obviously proves there isn't a frigging atmosphere on the moon. So So that was rubbish. That was one of the ones I remember reading about. I remember hearing about all these. Oh, there was a guy who was abducted. He was an abductee. He was but he wasn't abducted by aliens. But it was a UFO. But it was a lot of men in green uniforms, and he was like saying they were, military, and they basically took him off in the in like stealth bomber type aircrafts or UFOs to the moon, to bases on the other side of the moon, experimented on him, then brought him back. That was quite an interesting one. The way that he was, he had this UFO experience, but it was all man-made UFO, and obviously he was suggesting, well, maybe they were just aliens dressed as people in green uniforms and stuff like that. But yeah, he was convinced he'd been to these moon bases a couple of times in these abductions.
I've watched quite a few videos. I'll upload them onto our social media. The videos I've watched where they can see sort of like bases on the moon and stuff like that. Obviously people sort of like take this doesn't look like natural. It looks like it's organic. It's not organic. It's been man-made, I should say. Yeah. It's so they look structures and stuff. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a person who studies. I don't know what you call people who study maps, but I'm not these kind of people because I know a lot of the maps and the landing places were all NASA. Do you know who all NASA used all information from and all their data from? Do you know which person who's very, very influential of where the NASA was meant to land, where the Sea of Tranquility, all these kind of documentation? Do you know whose information they used? I'll give you a clue. He's a very, very famous English person. He passed away, but he's very famous.
I know
who is it?
Father Christmas?
No, not Father Christmas. It was none other than Sir Patrick Moore.
Oh,
Patrick Moore. They used him because he's been studying the sky at night. It was probably the longest running program ever in the history, and they used all his sort of like studies of the moon and stuff like that. So they used this. The other thing I was going to say, the reason why I think people deny or we've been to the moon is because I personally believe some of the moon landing pictures are faked. Not because we haven't been there, it's because they wanted to. There's a picture of Michael Collins where you can see him training. He's doing like a training module, and the same kind of position is on the moon. So I think NASA probably lost
on the moon. He stayed.
But he stayed it. But there's pictures in there actually on the moon or in the craft and stuff like that when he's training. That's what I'm going to say. He's actually training Michael Collins. So there's a pictures of Michael Collins where he's. So I think some of the pictures are faked, not to mislead people. I think instead of bringing back 100 pictures, he only brought back 45 pictures, and they had to create 3 or 4 or 10, 15, 20 more pictures, and they just used training sessions and moved them around. So that's why I think people think if they faked a few pictures,
it could be that they all just went in the same archive and were published, and they got a bit mixed up because maybe they used a similar role name on the tapes or something. Mistakes like that happen all the time. Yeah, someone was telling me just today that someone accidentally chucked away a load of Fraggle Rock episodes, and they were able to recover most of them because people had old copies on VHS and stuff like that. And but there's one episode they can't recover. They've not been able to do it. So the same thing happened with a load of Doctor Who episodes, and some of them the BBC have recreated in cartoon format with the original audio because they've got the audio, but they don't have the visual footage.
Because back then people wouldn't have had VCRs, would they?
No. Yeah. But someone had recorded the audio, so they were able to restore.
But didn't the same happen with NASA? Didn't NASA lose loads of pictures?
Yeah.
Apollo 9/11.
No, loads of recordings again because they weren't labelled very correctly. There was a lot of stuff last year because it was the 50th anniversary.
Does that not sound alarm bells off to you? That know what? If like the way me and you label all these fucking podcasts, and they're just our personal podcast, but these are like this is a national treasure. You think you would just put like Barrow Pen on it? It'd be fucking a little bit more than Barrow Pen.
This is episode 17, but say this was episode 1017 and 99, right? It's a lot easier in the digital day and age. I'm not having to store these on discs or CDs or anything. I can if I want, and it's a lot easier to. We're talking about tapes that were 3 foot wide, and literally because of the money and the budget, they reused some of them and taped over them. And again, there's that many tapes. You must have had people there just doing all this stuff on, and a lot of the time in those 3 days, there was nothing much going on. They might have been having a rest period or asleep, so they mislabel them. They get put in a box, and it comes to it, and there's another mission. They're like, "Well, we've not got any tapes. Let's just reuse some." Yeah, it's convenient to say, or does that not sound dodgy? Or do you think there's more history there? But at the time, they probably thought, it's like me now. What if we lost this episode? We could just record it again next week and have another chat. Might be a little bit different, but I'm not too precious about it. But something happens tomorrow, Carlos, makes this episode so unique that it's lost, and people go, oh, Andy and Carlos lost an episode. Why did they do that? There's something going on.
Hopefully the people think like that, or they probably won't be bothered. But no, I understand what you're saying. It's just I just find it weird when it's a little bit more than just documenting your daily yoga routine, your breakfast, what you've had for breakfast, what you've watched on TV. This is a national treasure. This is a national treasure. This is if I said to you,
it's world.
Well, sort of more national. This is a world treasure. World treasure. This will change the course of history for the rest of your life. So, does shit happen? Fucking every day shit happens. So I understand it, but I just find it's a bit where it's very easy to say, oh yeah, we misplaced it. Okay, that's what you say when you want things to go away, don't you?
Conspiracy theorists would say that. But if someone lost one small step for man speech, then yeah, fair enough. One small step for man. Oh shit! What's that over there? It's an alien with a gun pointing at me. Get back in! Go! If someone lost that one, you'd understand. Not some boring one that's 2 minutes long. And we're back around to the 2 minutes thing. Full circle.
It goes first circle, and also I think we'll be, and I think obviously with India going to the moon, China, and I think the United Arab Emirates are going now to space. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the UAE. So clearly, it's becoming cheaper. We're probably, depends on what you believe, we're probably running out of resources on this planet, or maybe it's becoming more expensive to mine first. So the next thing would be, yes, it's expensive, but if we can mine outside, the one thing I do know about the cosmos, it's abundant with free material. So that's the reason why I think why we've not been back. Maybe cost, yeah, of course, it's not cheap, but other countries have proved that it can be done. So the next thing would be obviously
very recently, though. So yeah,
only very recently.
Watch this space, I reckon.
But the one thing I will watch this space, no pun intended. But the one thing I do find is I will. This is it's regarding the moon landing, but it's also digressing. But there's a famous speech called it's the 25th anniversary of the moon landing. Bill Clinton practically rolls out
a big fat joint.
Neil Armstrong, and Neil Armstrong does big fat joint. Yeah, he talks about Neil Armstrong talks about removing truth protective layers. That there's things out there which are unbelievable. There's technology out there which, if you can reach them, you can achieve. And basically, he does talk about the parrots, like only things that fly like parrots, basically. And it's a famous 2.5 minute speech. And as you can imagine, conspiracy theorists have jumped on it and go, it's all hidden cryptic message because it becomes a recluse. Why do you need to remove truth protective layers? And to add to that, just one more thing, is Buzz Aldrin. Have you ever heard about Buzz Aldrin says one of the moons orbiting Mars has got some kind of monolith on it? Have you heard him talk about that? A monolith. It looks like it's man-made. We need to go to it. It could be extraterrestrial. He says it doesn't look natural. It looks man-made. And this is Buzz Aldrin saying that, not some geek.
Tell you what, our listeners can Google that, and I will look at that, and maybe I'll pull it up in one of our Twitch episodes. So,
The boys will be back after these short messages.
as well as the podcast we do every fortnight, me and Carlos are on Twitch twice a week, normally Wednesdays and Sundays, when we're not recording on a Wednesday for the podcast.
Twitch.tv/TheoConPod.
You can click the link in the show notes, head over to social media. There's links in our bio. It'll take you to all our links, including all the different podcast feeds. But you can also get our Twitch channel. If you go on there and follow us, you'll get an update of when we're live. You can interact with us and ask us, call us out, correct Carlos when he says correct me if I'm wrong, which he says on every episode, I believe. I don't know. I'll have to go back and check that. In fact,
I probably do say it all the time.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. For anyone that's listened to them all, does he say that in every episode? Someone go and count them. It'd be great. Put them all together on an audio clip and play them back to him.
You can help support the podcast or keep in touch with the boys by following them on Twitch and subscribing on YouTube. Please check the link in the show notes when you get a moment. Now, back to the topic.
Science. Ooh, sciencey bit.
Carlos, the moon smells of cheese, doesn't it? Does it? Do you know what it smells of?
It probably smells of nothing, probably.
So, Neil Armstrong and Buzz said, the dust got all over them when they were messing about on the moon that they didn't land on. They said when they got back in the capsule and everything and took the suits off that it smelt like wet fireplace ashes, or like after a fireworks show. The smell in the air after a fireworks show. So yeah,
that would make sense. It makes sense, like a powder. It'd be powder. Yeah, probably about right. That is there a reason. I'm sure there's an answer for it. I'm sure there's an answer, but for some reason I don't know the answer. Is why when on the moon they couldn't see the stars?
Yes.
Is there a reason? What's the reason for that? I can't remember the answer.
I saw someone. It's been away camping, or in a camper van. I think he's got. There was a really clear night. Started to take some pictures, and you could see some stars. And he showed about 3-4 pictures over the course of like an hour, 2 hours, as the sun was as the moon was rising, and it was a full moon. And as the moon rose, it was getting brighter and brighter, and it was basically because the moon was so bright. He actually commented. He said the moon's so bright, it's blocking the stars out. Now you could still see a few, but the moon was so bright, the light pollution or your camera focusing on, when it picks up the light of the moon, the levels of it aren't bright enough to pick up pinpoints of light that are the stars. Now, imagine you're on the moon looking at the Earth, which is much bigger because we're the same distance, except we're 3 times as big.
Yeah. Probably more.
3 times worth of light is going to bounce off us. So, also, the light reflected. So the moon isn't white. What we see on the moon.
It's a reflection. It's a reflection.
It's the reflection of the sun because it's black. It's reflecting. It's like turn your monitor off now. It's black. If you've got light on your face, you'll see yourself in the monitor because the blackness is reflecting the light. Right. So there's that much light reflected. It's light pollution. You go outside now, stand near a street lamp and try and see a star. You won't see it. Drive out where there's no street. I mean, you live in a city. You won't see anything anyway. Come out. In fact, it's pretty bad where I am, to be honest. But drive out of Manchester into the hills for a bit. Now look up. You'll see hundreds of stars.
I used to go to Winter Hill. The people from Manchester North and the North will probably understand what I mean. But we used to go to Winter Hill, and I used to go stargazing up there. My God, it was freezing. I used to go freezing. Stargaze, a good friend of mine called Luke.
Skywalker.
So you can imagine 2 grown guys. No, not Skywalker. But we used to go stargazing and I've never been. That's probably one of the coldest times I've ever been. We get the box out and we get the telescope out. We'd be building the telescope up, and there was like icicles on the box. And that was within 20 minutes. It was so cold. And because you need to be out in the elements, and because you're out in the elements, you got no buildings blocking the wind and stuff like that. It was, I just think you wouldn't last. If we had to stay out in that night, we probably would have died the night. The coldness. It was literally within after half an hour, we said, right, let's go, put it away. It was just so cold.
I can see Winter Hill from my house, and when it gets colder, for example, it snowed for half a day this year. You literally didn't have time to get a sledge out and go sledging. It was absolutely ridiculous. But for quite a few weeks, you could see the snow on the top of Winter Hill because of the altitude. The temperature drops like half a degree every so many 100 feet you go, and it's not a mountain, but it's a big tall hill, and it's big enough to have snow. Also, when I was in the Cubs, we did a walk over Winter Hill, and it wasn't terribly cold. It was probably like March or something like that. But I remember ice forming on my woolly hat and on a scarf that was around your face because it was so cold. We were just bundled up, just walking from A to B and then getting picked up again. But yeah, everyone just where your condensation was from your sweat and everything, it just turned to ice. It was crazy.
Here's one for you before I forget, because obviously, is he a moon conspiracy that we've not mentioned tonight, or you think, Kalish didn't mention that?
Are you asking me? Are you asking me? Or are you asking?
No,
me?
you're asking you. Is it? No, okay, because
I've got a few more facts.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking the reason why I'm trying to vote. The reason why I try and understand why people try and think the moon landing fake, because I know you mentioned before with JFK, we were in a race with the Soviet Union at the time to beat them. If it was when I say ours, I should say ours. I mean, when America won the race to the moon, if it was fake, Russia would have said, "Oh, it's fake, and here's the evidence it's fake." So that would say a lot to me.
Do you know what they tried to do? So you've actually just stumbled into my next fact, because we did digress then on the old Winter Hill thing. But the Soviet tried to cover up their efforts basically. So once they know they've been beaten, they try to downplay their efforts to get to the moon to make it look like they weren't trying so hard. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. They probably would have come out going, if they were really close and they were going, you didn't go, you didn't get there. You're a fake. We were monitoring you. You've been monitoring us. So but the Russians had a lot of wins. First satellite, first man in space.
I think it was the Yuri Gagarin. I think that's the one what really punched America in the gut, because Sputnik was fucking hell. They got Sputnik up. They can watch us and stuff like that. But it was the Yuri Gagarin. That's the one what threw them off. They go, wow, if they can put man in space, they can put missiles up there basically and just launch it.
They got some robots on the moon as well, didn't they? They got some robots to the moon. And we're able to control them. Yeah. There's Google Russian robots on the moon.
Here's one for you, while I'm thinking that you said Soviet Union. Are you famous words? Correct me if I'm wrong, people. Is I've either read about this, I've watched it, or I've dreamt it. But I read somewhere, I'm going to say read, that the Soviet Union has been to the moon. It was a mission. I'm not sure if it was with Apollo, and it was unsuccessful. Their astronauts were killed out there on the moon, but they didn't want to make it public. And they may have made films about it or things, but I've read. So this was correct me if I'm wrong. I've either made it up, I've dreamt about it, or I've watched it, or anything. But the Soviet Union with Apollo, or some kind of team effort, sent astronauts to the moon, but it went wrong. They were killed out there. They were killed. That'll be something to look into. So
there was a Soviet on that plaque, so they were obviously aware of at least a couple of cosmonauts or whatever, one at least that had died in the efforts to get there. So yeah, maybe that was part of the other stuff they were trying to play down. Oh yeah, we didn't have a spaceship that almost got there, but or maybe got there, but it had 3 skeletons in it. Who do you reckon took Holy Communion on the moon?
Ooh, I would probably say Neil Armstrong being a Catholic. I think he was Christian, definitely Christian. So, and I think he was a Freemason as well.
Right.
So Neil Armstrong.
It was actually Buzz Aldrin.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Again, you can, if you Google that, you can see that he took this tiny little thingy of wine with him and everything, and took Holy Communion on the moon, because he knew they'd have, once they landed, they would have downtime before they were allowed to leave the capsule. Did you know scientists were worried about space germs infecting the Earth?
Yes, that's why they quarantine them when they get back.
Yeah,
so that's
obvious,
public knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, and they quarantine them before they go as well, just so they don't. It's just like
take anything.
Yes, it's not that they don't take anything. They don't want them getting ill.
I think there'll always be a conspiracy. I know people like Joe Rogan was a massive moon denier or moon landing denier, but now he said after speaking to people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Cox and Brian Greene and so forth, he says, yeah, we've definitely been to the moon. We've definitely been to the moon.
After speaking to sensible people and not internet
after talking to sensible
idiots.
people, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone ever listens to the very end of the podcast or they get bored, but stick around for some bloopers and stuff like that. You never know what you might hear. Thanks for listening.
And thank you for listening, peeps.
Yeah, and don't forget to check us out on Twitch and also on YouTube, because the Twitch videos go onto YouTube as well.
Stick around for some bloopers and outtakes, and if you have enjoyed this, please give us a like and subscribe.
So just going back to you saying about Neil Armstrong and the parrots, all I could think of when you were talking about that was Eric Cantona and the Seagulls.
Well, that's speech. Yeah, but okay. I'm a devout Manchester United fan. I'm a season ticket holder, so don't hold that against me if people support other football teams. I'm a big football fan, mate. So Eric Cantona says, when the seagulls follow the trawler, they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. What that says to me is, when the journalists follow me, they're not going to get any rich pickings off me at all. That's what he's saying. So he may say, I didn't mean anything about it, but when the seagulls follow the trawler, he's the trawler. The seagulls are the parasites, the paparazzi, the journalists looking for one mistake. They think sardines will be thrown into the sea. So that's a hidden cryptic message. So that's it. Great analogy. I had an answer for that.
Well, it wasn't really a question. It was just a statement.
But it's good. It's good though.
I'm not a United fan, by the way, fans. So I might cut that in case any sort of football allegiance damages the podcast listeners.
It'd be a bit better.
I'll just better mention that I support Liverpool. So that's another one. That's another one where me and Carlos are chalk and cheese. So, but yeah, whether Liverpool, United, whoever you support, who cares? I'm not that big a supporter.
Correct me if I'm wrong, peeps who are listening.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct me if I'm wrong, people.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
So this was a correct me if I'm wrong. I've either made it up, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the UAE. So you need to go back in and go, I'm looking, and then you go, oh, Carlos is right. You got to give me credit in this one. It's
Violet.
20. 8. 5.
Blue.
20.
18. 21.
20. 8. White.
9.
19.
Yellow.
6.
1.
18.
Blue.
13.
15. 18.
5.
Green.
6. 18. 9.
7.
8. 20. 5. 14.
9.
14.
7.